Therefore, the pasuk says you shall offer it. Afilu prei da'achos. Then halacha l'maisa you could offer up even one carbon as an olas ha'of. Yavi ela mizbeach. Also, when the pasuk says you shall bring it to the mizbeach, ma Talmud lomar. What does that come to teach me? So the Gemara says as follows. What the Gemara is asking over here is like this. Why do I need that phrase Yavi al mizbeach? Ma Talmud lomar hakohen. So also remember again, the pasuk says the kohen shall bring it to the mizbeach. Why do I need to be told that it is the Kohen who is bringing it to the Mizbeach? Likboa lo Kohen. To tell me that what? That it is the Kohen who must bring the Olas Ha'of. So the Gemara says, what's the Chiddush over here? Watch this. Sheyochel. Because I might have thought as follows. Sheyochel. Sheyochel valo dinu. Because you're going to both say, I would have had the following halacha. What's the following halacha? Uma ben son, or I should say the following kavachomer. Uma ben son, shekavalot safon, lo kavala kohen. So when it comes to an offering of a sheep of ben son, that halacha is you have to bring it in the north. So there is a geographic obligation, but guess what? There is no obligation for a kohen. What does it mean there's no obligation for a kohen? What that means is for shchita. Shchita can be done even bizarre. Shchita can be done even through a non-kohen. Of shalo kavalot safon, an olas ha'of which does not need to be offered up in the north. Eino din shlo yikbala kohen. I would have thought for sure that there is no obligation ultimately to go ahead and have a coin offered up. Talmud lomar ela coin. Therefore, the pasuk says, no, you shall bring it to the coin, likboa coin. The teacher Abosai, and this was very interesting, that although shchita by other karbanos is kshera bizarre, right? You could have a non-coin do shchita by any of the other karbanos. When it comes to olas ha'of, and we're going to see, this is not unique to olas ha'of. This is olas ha'of, chatas ha'of, have to be done dafka by a coin. I might have thought that the olas ha'of or the chatas ha'of is shechted with, malika is done with a knife. I would have thought the malika is done with a knife. V'dinu, and I would have thought based on the following limud. What's the limud? So the Gemara says, Umma im shchita shalo kavala kohen kavala kli. Because when it comes to shchita of regular carbon, where you don't have to have it done by a kohen, yet it has to be done with a knife. Malika shekavala kohen inodin shiyik balokli. Then Abba say Malika, which does have to be done by a Kohen, should certainly require a knife. And Abba say it's an interesting kavachomer. If at the end of the day other karbanos, which do not require a Kohen, do require a knife, then ultimately again Malika Sa'ov, which does require a Kohen, should certainly require a knife. Talmud Lomar Kohen Umalak. Therefore Abba say the pasuk says the juxtaposition of the words of Kohen Umalak to teach me that halacha l'maisa ultimately again requires a Kohen. But it's done b'malika, it's done ultimately without a kli. Rabbi Akiva, v'chisala al daitcha shezar kari v'gab mizbeach. So let's go back for just a moment. The previous drasha, the drasha the Gemara just made taught me that halacha l'maisa we don't use a kli, we don't use a utensil. Sorry, no, it's fine. I'm just move it over. Sorry, good morning. So ultimately, again, I would have thought the previous drasha of the Gemara is that the malika of the oaf has to be done by a kohen, and then the Gemara taught the malika of the oaf has to be done not with a kli, I should say, not with a knife, rather it's done with the fingernail of the kohen, as we'll discuss. Rabbi Kiva now is backtracking a little bit. Why do I need a drasha to teach me that the avoda of chatas ha'of, of olas ha'of, has to dafka be done by a kohen? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva, v'chisala daitcha shezar kar v'gabi hamizbeach. So let's remember again, we didn't say it explicitly, but we're going to darshan it now just a little bit. The entire avoda of the bird offering, both chatas ha'of and olas ha'of, is done by the mizbeach. Why do I need a drasha to teach me that this avoda can only be done by a kohen? It's obvious that it can only be done by a kohen. Why? Because only a kohen has the ability to approach the mizbeach. A non-kohen can't approach the mizbeach. To which the Gemara says, "V'chisala daitcha shezar kar v'gam mizbeach ela matzalom kohen." So therefore, what does the pasuk mean when it tells me kohen? Shetei malika ba'atzmo shel kohen. To teach you that what Rabbi saying that the malika has to be done with the actual atzmo shel kohen means what? The actual kohen himself has to do the malika with his body, i.e., with his fingernail. With his fingernail, the idea it's interesting. Rabbi Kiva says HaKohen is very interesting. HaKohen doesn't teach me that a Kohen has to do the avoda. That's obvious. Why is it obvious? Because it's done by the Mizbeach. So what does HaKohen come to teach me? That halacha l'maisa, the malika has to be done with the Kohen himself, i.e. his fingernail, which we'll discuss the process in just a little bit, his fingernail, and not with a knife. I might have thought that ultimately, again, after the malika, so the blood could be sprinkled, but remember again, whether it's above or below what we call the chut hasikra, the red line of the mizbeach. I might have thought that you could sprinkle the blood either above the line or below the line of the mizbeach. Talmud lomar umalak v'hektir. Therefore, the pasuk says, you shall do malika and you shall go and offer it up. Mahaktara berosh hamizbeach, just like the offering of the chata of the ola sa'of is done on the top of the mizbeach. So too again, af malika berosh hamizbeach. So Rabbi said the malika itself is done on the top of the mizbeach. So Rabbi said, by the way, this ultimately feeds into Rabbi Akiva's drasha. So once you're telling me that the juxtaposition between umalak and hektir teaches me that just as haktara, the offering of the ola sa'of is done on the top of the mizbeach, so too the malika is done on the top of the mizbeach. If that's the case, then I don't need to darshan HaKohen to teach me that what? That it is the Kohen who must do the avoda, who must do the malika, because it's obvious once it's happening on top of the mizbeach, then obviously any non-Kohen can't do it. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva says a Kohen teaches me what? That the avoda of Ola Sa'of has to be done b'Kohen, the Kohen himself, i.e. his fingernail, namely, not a knife. Not a knife. Umalak, so you have to do malika. What does that teach me? Mimul oref, so also that teaches me that the malika is done by the back of the neck of the bird. So as we're going to see, the Kohen holds the bird in his hands, and with the same hand, according to most opinions, with the same hand, takes his fingernail and essentially breaks the spine and the neck bone of the bird, but from behind. All of this is done from behind. So the Gemara says, Mul oref, so you're saying it's from the back of the neck, maybe not, maybe it's from the front of the neck. V'dinhu. So what's the kavachomer? So really, not as much kavachomer, but really a limud. So ne'emar kan umalak. It says over here that you do malika by ola sa'of. V'ne'emar lahalon umalak, and it says by chata sa'of that you do malika. Ma lahalon mimulor. We'll say just like we've already established by chata sa'of that the malika is done from the back of the neck. Afkan mimul oref. So too over here by Ola Sa'of, it is done from the back of the neck. So we make a comparison between Ola Sa'of and Chata Sa'of. Just like Chata Sa'of, the Malika is done from the back of the neck. So too Ola Sa'of, the Malika is done from the back of the neck. We'll say, first wide line, Tzamachem Adalef. So we'll say, well, if that's the case, so now what you're telling me. So we'll say, so just by the way, keep a running list in your Daf Yomi notebook about the facts, because these are pieces of halacha l'maisa that we are assembling. So remember again, what we've established is Ola Sa'of only requires one bird. What we've established ultimately again is that Ola Sa'of is not done besakin, but only done ultimately again with the finger of the Kohen. Machlok is where that drasha comes from. We've also established the juxtaposition between Malika and Haktara teaches me that just as Haktara, the offering of the bird is done on the top of the Mizbeach, so too the Malika is done on the top of the Mizbeach. We'll understand the novelty in that. What's the novelty? Correct. The novelty is that by every other carbon, shchita can be done anywhere. Anywhere. By Olas and Chata Sa'of, the shchita is only done on the top of the Mizbeach. As such, it can only be done by a Kohen. Next halacha, Malika is done from the back of the neck. Where do we learn Malika is done from the back of the neck? By Olas Sa'of, through a comparison between Olas Sa'of and Chata Sa'of. Just like Chata Sa'of, as we've established, Malika is done from the back of the neck. So too again, by Olas Sa'of, Malika is done from the back of the neck. Gemara says, well, if that's the case, Ima lahalon, if you're going to compare Olas Sa'of to Chata Sa'of, I would say as follows. Ima lahalon, molek ve'ino mavdil, afkan molek ve'ino mavdil. Well, if that's the case, then I would say as follows, that just like over there, by Chata Sa'of for both sides, the halacha is, you do malika, but you don't sever the head. So I might have thought the same way, by Chata Sa'of, you do malika, and you don't sever the head. Maybe over here, by Ola Sa'of, you also do malika, but don't sever the head. But we know that's not the case. We know by Ola Sa'of, you do sever the head. So what accounts for that distinction? Talmud Lomar, umalak v'hiktir. Both say this is amazing. Umalak v'hiktir. Pasuk says you shall do malika, and you shall offer it up. Hiktir literally means burn the carbon. Mahak Torah harosh liatzmo v'aguf latzmo. Both say just like by the burning of the Ola Sa'of, you burn the body separately and the head separately. Af malika harosh liatzmo v'aguf liatzmo. Both say so too by Ola Sa'of, you sever the head from the body in its entirety. So this is a very important distinction between Ola Sa'of and Chata Sa'of. By Chata Sa'of, again, Malika is done, but the head can remain attached to the body. By Ola Sa'of, when Malika is done, the head is severed in its entirety from the body. So the Gemara says, Uminayin, Shak Taras Harosh Biatzmo Vagof Biatzmo. So both sides, the way you're learning it out is, just like by Ola Sa'of, since we burn the head and the body separately, so to the din of the Malika is to separate the head from the body. But where do you know that you burn the head and the body separately? To which the Gemara says, Uminayin Shak Taras Harosh Biatzmo Vagof Biatzmo. Head, know that you burn the head and the body separately. Shene'emar v'hiktir oso. Hariak taras haguf amura. Because we'll say the pasuk says you shall burn it. That refers to the burning of the body of the bird. Ha ma'ani makayim v'hiktir hamizbecha. So we'll say, why do I need the extra phrase? You shall burn it on the mizbeach. In other words, why does the Torah have to state a second time that you shall burn it? Bak taras harosh hakosav medaber. We'll say that's talking about the burning of the head. So from here you see that the Torah discusses the burning of the head and the burning of the body separately by olas ha'of. What does that teach me? That ultimately they're burned separately. If they're burned separately, then what does that tell me? What does that tell me? That Malika severs the head from the body in its entirety. And I will say that is indeed another piece of halacha lemaisa by olas ha'of, namely that body and head are separated. V'nimtza damo. So both said then the pasuk says v'nimtza damo. Now v'nimtza damo means you shall go ahead and what? Squeeze out the blood. You shall squeeze out the blood from the body of the bird. So the Gemara says v'nimtza damo kula el kier mizbeach. So we'll say the halacha is you go ahead and you squeeze out. It's the pasuk in Zevachim. V'nimtza damo el kier mizbeach. You shall squeeze out the blood onto the wall of the mizbeach. V'lo al kir hakevesh. V'lo al kir haheichal. So we'll say the Torah says you shall squeeze out the blood of the olas ha'of onto the kir, onto the wall of the mizbeach, not onto the wall of the ramp, and not onto the wall of the Beis Hamikdash. The Eza Zeh Kir. So we'll say what is the what area is this? The Eza Zeh Kira Elyon. So we'll say ultimately the Gemara says this refers to the upper wall. Now what does upper wall refer to? Upper wall refers to above the Chut HaSikra, above the red line. No, he doesn't have to. He can come down, but he doesn't have to come down. He could also do it. He can lean over from the side of the Mizbeach and squeeze it out like that. He can come down. He doesn't have to. The Ezazeh, so we'll say, so ultimately again, which wall is the blood squeezed out onto? Zekira Elyon. This refers to the upper wall of the Mizbeach. In other words, above the red line, above the Chot HaSikra. Oh, Eina Ela Kira Tachton. Maybe you'll say, no, it's the bottom wall, which is the wall below the red line. V'dinhu. So the Gemara makes a kavachomer. Ma behema shechata asa lemala olasa lemata. Both say by a general animal offering, where a general chatos offering of osai is ultimately the blood is sprinkled lemala, above the red line. But yet the ola is sprinkled lemata. Of shechataso lemata ino din sha'olasa lemata. A bird offering of osai where a bird chatos is offered below the Chot HaSikra. Certainly, again, the Ola will be offered up below the Chot HaSikra as well. Talmud Lomar, Umalak vehiktir. So we'll say, V'nimtza damo. So the pasuk says, ultimately, again, Malak vehiktir, you'll do Malika. You'll burn the offering, V'nimtza damo, you'll squeeze out the blood. V'chisala adaitcha, la'achar shehiktir chozer umematza. So we'll say, here's the problem. The chronology of the flow of the pasuk doesn't work. The pasuk says that what? Malak, you do Malika. Hiktir, you burn the carbon. V'nimtza damo, you'll squeeze out the blood. Now, obviously, once you've burned the carbon, then what? There's no more squeezing out of blood. So that's Gemara says, you're going to think that ultimately, again, after you burn the offering, you're going to squeeze out the blood. Elalomar lacha, mahaktara birosh hamizbeach, af mitzui, birosh hamizbeach. Right? I will say, what does it teach me? It teaches me against the Gemara is trying, and this, Greg, this goes to your point as well. The Gemara is going to go ahead and teach me the juxtaposition between haktara and squeezing out. Just like haktara rabosa is done ultimately berosh hamizbeach, the offering of the carbon is done while standing on the top of the mizbeach. So too the squeezing out of the blood is also done on the top of the mizbeach. Now, what does that mean? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, "Ela berosh hamizbeach." Diba, if you look at Rashi read it some Gilyon Hashas. Ela berosh hamizbeach diba inon vehiktir v'nimtza damo shemitzui bikir hasamoch l'makam haktara. So what the Torah is doing is the Torah is linking the processes ultimately of offering and squeezing out. What's the case? Ha-ketzad. So we'll say, how did all of this work? So we'll say, here we kind of bring everything together. How did the actual Ola Sa'of work? Now we'll say, before we go on, what Rashi's pointing out is as follows. The fact that the Torah goes ahead and says, Umalak vehiktir v'nimtza. Torah juxtaposes the processes of burning the carbon to squeezing out the blood, which tells you that just as the burning of the carbon is done on the top of the Mizbeach, Rashi says, so too again the squeezing out of the blood of the bird has to be done on the side of the Mizbeach, which is close to the top of the Mizbeach. So, okay, so now the Gemara says, what's the process? Here we go. We'll say this. So this is now you're going to get Ola Sa'of in its entirety. Very exciting. Okay, son. Haya Ola B'kevesh. The kohen would walk up the ramp of the Mizbeach, upona l'sovev, and he would turn towards the ledge. Now, also we spoke about this ledge. This ledge was essentially the ironwork on the top of the Mizbeach. He would turn towards the ledge. Ubalo l'keren diromis mizrachis. He would come to the southeast corner of the Mizbeach. Umolek es rosha mimul arpa. So also remember again, this is a review of all of the facts. Number one, who's doing the malika? Kohen. Why? Because it's under the Mizbeach. He's coming to the southeast corner of the Mizbeach. Now what would he do? Step number one. Hayamolek es rosha mimul arpa. He does malika b'osai. Now remember, what the Gemara didn't get into, which we'll discuss later on, is how malika is actually done. But for our purposes right now, he's holding the bird with its back towards him. What does he do? He does malika from the back of the neck, umavdil, and he goes in and he separates off the head from the body. But say, how much of the head does he separate? All of it. By ola sa'of, as opposed to chata sa'of, where the head remains attached to the body. Ola sa'of, the head is totally severed. Umavdil, umematza midama al kir hamizbeach. And ultimately, what does he do? He squeezes the blood, ultimately again, on the side or on the wall of the Mizbeach. So the Gemara says, Now both say, now when it says he does it on the wall, meaning obviously what he's doing is he's leaning over to the side and he's squeezing the blood on the side. How far down? Up to an amma below the top of the Mizbeach. So both say, why up to an amma? Because the sikra, the red line, was an amma below the top of the Mizbeach. So the idea is he has to squeeze the blood lamala mechot sikra, above the red line, and therefore again he squeezes it up to an amma below. And we're going to see machloksim about where the blood on the side of the Mizbeach goes, but for our purposes right now, so if he goes ahead and halacha l'maisa, he does it even an amma below where he's standing, ultimately the carbon is still kosher. Rabbi Nechemia of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omrim, Kol atzma ein naasis ela berosh hamizbeach. Well, say, so here you see. Rabbi Nechemia Rabbi Eliezer says, no, he doesn't go ahead and squeeze the blood on the side of the Mizbeach. Rather, where does he squeeze the blood? On the top of the Mizbeach itself. Kol atzma ein naasis ela berosh hamizbeach. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Ela berosh hamizbeach. Rashi says, I read this Rashi in the wrong place. Diboinon vehiktir v'nimtza damo shemitzui bikira samach l'makam aktorah. Both say, so it appears that Rabbi Nechemia and Rabbi Eliezer hold that the actual squeezing out of the blood has to be done where? In a place where the actual haktorah can be done. Where could the haktorah, where could the offering be done? I both say, where? Only on the top of the Mizbeach. So too they hold that the squeezing out has to be done on the top of the Mizbeach. My now, what's the practical difference ultimately again between the Tanakama and between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Nechemia? So the Gemara says, "My binayu abai v'rava amri tarvayu osem ma'aracha al gobe sobev ika binayu." Both say, so it appears that the nafkamina. Look at Rashi for just a moment. My binayu k'mora my kamiflagi hal karchach l'tanakama gufei islay umaktir v'nimtza damo dilav sphere like kira elyon minole. So we'll say they both seem to be making the same exact drasha. If they're making the same drasha, so what's the nafkamina? I'll tell you the nafkamina. Can you make the ma'aracha on top of the sobev? So remember again, a sobev is the ledge that goes around the perimeter of the Mizbeach. The ma'aracha, the pyre for the Mizbeach, generally was, we'll say, centered in the middle of the Mizbeach. Can you go ahead and move the ma'aracha to the side of the Mizbeach or not? Look at Rashi. Osem ma'aracha l'tanakama harotze la'asos ma'aracha al gabe sovev u'lahakdir ose. But according to Tanakama, if someone wants to move the ma'aracha, wants to move the pyre to the side of the Mizbeach, on top of the ledge, they have the ability to do so. Hilchach, mitzvah shetachas hasovev, samuch l'makam aktaras. We'll say this is amazing. Everyone agrees that what? That you need mitzvah, you need squeezing out of the blood, samuch l'makam haktara, next to the place where the carbon could be offered. So again, I will say one opinion holds, next to the place where the carbon could be offered, what does that mean? That means top of the Mizbeach. Why? Because ultimately the carbon could only be offered in the center of the Mizbeach. So therefore you have to squeeze out the blood on top of the Mizbeach. Other opinion says no. If you wanted to, you could actually move the pyre to the side of the Mizbeach. If you can move the pyre to the side of the Mizbeach, then what they're both saying? You could even squeeze out the blood where? On the actual side of the Mizbeach. Why? Because in that case, since the fire could be burning by the side of the Mizbeach, squeezing out the blood on the side wall of the Mizbeach will still allow the blood to be close to the actual burning of the offering itself. Good, that's the nafkamina. But say the way the Rambam Paskins ultimately again is that halacha l'maisa, the blood was actually put either on the top or on the side. It had to be lamala mechot sikra, above the red line. So it could be on the top or it could be on the side, but on the side it can't be lower than an amad down. I will say the incredible part about those drushes is here the Gemara just pretty much walked us through the entirety of the process of Ola Sa'of Halacha L'Maisa. Very exciting. Says the Gemara, Balo L'Guf. Tan Rabbanas. Well, now the Gemara is going to talk about the actual dismembering of the bird. So you finish up your cinnamon buns, if you want to. Now, so we're going to get a little bit into the dismembering of the bird. So Tan Rabbanan. Sorry? The kish, right? The kish because of the birds. Tan Rabbanan. V'hesiris morasa benot sasa. So we'll say the pasuk says, you shall remove morasa. We'll discuss what that means in just a moment. Benot sasa. Now, not sasa, we know what it means. That means feathers. So you shall remove this thing that's called the mora together with the feathers. What is the mora asa? Zu zefek. I will say this refers to what we call the crop of the animal. The crop of the animal is like the holding place of the food. The animal, a bird, often swallows its food whole. The food goes into the crop, and the crop kind of holds it until it goes into the stomach, the primary stomach. So ultimately, again, you remove the crop of the bird. Yachol yakdir b'sakin v'yitlenu. I might have thought that's what? That you just go ahead and what? Make an incision in the animal and just remove the crop. So in other words, just make a cut and remove the crop. Talmud Lor benot sasa. Therefore, does the pasuk say, no, when you remove the crop, Rabbi say, what do you remove with it? You remove the feathers on top of the crop together with the crop. So the Gemara says, you have to take the feathers. So also you don't just make an incision, as we're going to see, you cut out the entire area. Abiyosi ben Chanan Omer, notla v'notal kur kabana ima. Not only do you take the crop, but you also take the gizzard. We're supposed to say that's much more the stomach. Debei Rabbi Shmuel Tana benotza sa benotza shala kodra besakin kamin aruba. So what's that? Debei Rabbi Shmuel says, how do you cut out the crop and the gizzard? Essentially, I'll say what you do is you cut it out like a window. What does that mean? That literally you cut out the entire area, removing again the crop, the gizzard, together with the flesh, as well as the feathers that sit on top of it. So both say the real limud is, I might have thought, I know I have to remove these internal organs. I might have thought essentially I just make an incision and pull it out. Kamasha, what does the Torah tell me? No, you remove the flesh and the feathers on top of these internal organs as well. Good. That doesn't have to be done with the thumb. That can be done with the knife. That can be done already bisakin. Correct? Only the malika itself is done with the thumb. Everything else bisakin. Excellent point. So remember again, the Mishnah says that what? You go ahead and you essentially tear the bird open, but you don't split it apart. Tan Rabbanan v'shisa ein v'shisa elabiyat. So we'll say, so this goes back to Ari's point over here. We're going to discuss in greater depth what's done with a knife versus what is done by hand. So here the Gemara says that the actual pulling open of the bird is done with the hand of the Kohen. So v'shisa in, the Gemara says, ein shisa ela biyad. Ultimately, again, shisa means that Allah Chalamayim, so this entire process is done by hand. So the way that Rambam Paskins Rabbi say is as follows. Malika has to be done by hand. These other processes also lechatchila have to be done by hand, but b'di'evet, if done by knife, ultimately again it's still kosher, except for the malika. Malika has to be done by hand. But Rabbi said, lechatchila, all of this is done by hand, which is incredible, by the way. Also, the strength of the Kohen, right? In other words, we'll say, so this first of all, malika itself is not a pasha thing to be able to first of all grow your nail out like that and have the dexterity, right? As we're going to see, because according to most opinions, all of this is happening with one hand. You're holding the bird in one hand, and you're doing the malika with one hand. And also just, I don't know how much strength it requires to open up a bird. I haven't done one lately. I'll say, but pashtos, if you can imagine, again, obviously these are smaller birds than a chicken, but even if you're cutting apart the chicken, so that requires some amount of avoda, even just with a knife. But the Kohen is doing all of this by hand. V'chinu omer vayishaseu kishes agdi. So therefore the Gemara says. So I said the knife too quickly before. Really, the knife is only b'di'evet by the other pieces. L'chatchila, all of this is being done by hand of the Kohen. So the Gemara goes weiter. So I'm sorry, let me read that Rosh Hashanah. Tan Rabbana v'shisa, ain't shisa el biyad. But say shisa means that it's being done by hand. How do we know that? V'chin omer vayishaseu kishes agdi. That he tore it apart. Ultimately, again, he tore it apart like one tears apart a kid. Well, so who is this talking about? This is about Shimshon, right? When Shimshon has his burst of strength, so ultimately, again, he tears apart the animal like one would tear apart a kid. Not a kid, like a small goat, Right, I want to get in trouble. So it says the Gemara as follows: Lo heisir es hamora. So also listen to this. The Gemara goes weiter. Masnisin de lo Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. We'll say our Mishnah does not reflect the view of Rabbi Elazar Shimon. Why is that? This Sanya. So we'll say, just so you know what the Gemara is focusing on over here is as follows. The part that the Gemara is focusing on is as like this. The Gemara says, I'm reading to you the Mishnah for just a moment. So the Mishnah says, Lo hisir es hamora. I'm just reading through the Mishnah. Velo hanotza v'espenei me'ayin yotzi machem velo safko melach kol sheyesh lo b'machar shemitzi az namakosh hivdil b'chatos velo hivdil ba'ola pasol. So we'll say literally hivdil means if you went ahead and you separated. Now what we're going to get into right now is the separating of the two simanim. In an animal, like in a person, there are two simanim. There's the kana and the veshet. There's the esophagus and the windpipe. So really, again, by chata sa'of, all you have to do is separate one of them. Which, by the way, also makes sense, because by chata sa'of, Rabbi say, what's the din of malika? What's the din of malika? Right, the head can remain attached to the body. So because the head can remain attached to the body, all you really need is the separating or is the cutting of one of the simanim. By ola, because the head is detached from the body, malika is a total malika, so obviously that requires what? The cutting of both of the simanim. So therefore the Mishnah says, hivdil b'chatas or hivdil ba'ola, if you detach the head of the chatas, which didn't detach the head of the ola, pasul. Ultimately, again, the animal is pasul. The ola is pasul. So the Gemara says as follows, Masnisin de lo Rabbi Elazar Shimon. We'll say our Mishnah does not appear to hold does not reflect the Rabbi Shimon. Why? What does this Sanya? Rabbi Elazar Shimon Shamati Shemavdilin Bechata Sa'of. I heard Rabbi Shimon Elazar says Shemavdilin Bechata Sa'of, that halacha lemaisa you could detach the head of the bird by chata sa'of. Now I will say that Rabbi Shimon Elazar is not necessarily saying that you should do this lechatchila. What he's saying, if you look at Rashi, Shemavdilin, Rashi says Shem hivdilo pasal, that if you did detach the head of the bird from the body of chata sa'of, that the carbon is not puzzle. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Masnisin. I'm sorry. Go backwards to just a moment. The last of the longest lines on top. Masnisin. Diktani hivdil b'malikas chatos shemalka b'shnei simanim pasal delo krabaza. So we'll say our Mishnah says that if you do a complete malika and therefore you cut both simanim by a chatas ha'of, what's the halacha? The carbon is pasal. The carbon is pasul. By olas ha'of, you require malika of both simanim because you have to detach the head from the body in its totality. By chatas ha'of, you only do one siman because that has to remain attached. Our Mishnah said that if you detached both simanim, if you cut through both simanim, and even if you didn't detach that, you just cut through both simanim, ultimately, again, the carbon is pasul. So it's all the Gemara is saying over here is our Mishnah does not reflect the view of Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon. Why? Because Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon said, Shamat, I heard, Shemavdilin b'chata sa'of, that b'diavad by chata sa'of, even if you cut both simanim, the carbon is still kosher. So the Gemara says, my benayu. So we'll say, what is the machlokes? Obviously, the Tanakama holds that you can't cut through both simanim of chata sa'of. Rabbi Shimon Elazar says, b'diavad, or Rabbi Shimon says, b'diavad, you can't cut through both simanim by chata sa'of. What are they arguing about? Amar Rav Chisda, Mitzvah chatas of ma'akev ikabana. Also, what they seem to be arguing about is whether or not the squeezing out of the blood by chatas ha'of is ma'akev or not. So we'll say everyone says lechatchila you require mitzvah by chatas ha'of, or squeezing out of the blood. The shaila is if you didn't do it, doesn't compromise the carbon or not. Tanakama savar mitzvah chatas ha'of ma'akev. Tanakama holds that the squeezing out of the blood by chatas ha'of is ma'akev. The chayvan de mitzvah dam. The Bach changes this. The chayvan de mitzvah dam ma'akev ka'avid ma'isa ola b'chatas ha'of. Supposed to listen to this. So Tanakama holds, here's the issue. The squeezing out of the blood is ma'akev. And here's the problem. The problem is if you go ahead and cut through both siman raboseh, then what have you done? In your effort to offer up a chatas, what have you effectively done? You'd offer up an ola. Why? Because Rabosai, the only nafkamina between a chatas, not the only, but one of the major nafkaminas in the chatas Rabosai is what? Is 2 simanim versus 1. So if you hold that mitzvah is ma'akev, which means that after I do malika, I do have to squeeze out the blood. The problem is in my effort to go ahead and offer up a chatas, I have effectively offered up an ola. And therefore, again, the carbon will be pasul. Rabbi Shmuel Silber, mitzvah chatas of lo ma'akev. Rabbi Shmuel says, no, we'll say the mitzvah is not ma'akev. The mitzvah is not, the squeezing out of the blood is not ma'akev. Therefore what? Therefore, again, Rabbi say, as soon as I go ahead and I sever one of the simanim, then what? I'm done. So we'll say, you hear the chap over here? This is really riveting. This is really, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I never knew chata sa'ov could be so exciting. That's exactly what's going through your mind right now. I always thought kabbalah was boring. I never thought it would have me on the edge of my seat. So let's say, so watch this. See, everything depends on whether or not mitzvah is ma'akev. Is the squeezing out of the blood, which takes place when, the chronology is very important, which takes place when? After the malika is in ma'akev. If you hold that you need to do mitzvah, then the problem is what? If I shecht both simanim, I couple simanim, the problem is in my effort to do a chatas, I've done an ola. By the time I get to the mitzvah, I'm out. If, on the other hand, you hold mitzvah is not ma'akev, then what? As soon as you cut one siman, then what have you done? What? You're done. You've done the chatas. But I'm still cutting a second siman. Who cares? Mechatech basar ba'almo. But that's only if you hold that mitzvah is not ma'akev. If you hold that you should squeeze it out, but it's not ma'akev, then once I cut one siman, chatas is locked in, I'm done. When I continue to go ahead and shecht the next siman, that's just like cutting flesh and simply non-essential. Rava Amarava says, no, they're arguing about something different. Shehiyah b'simin sheni ba'ola sa'of ma'akev ikevin. Listen to this. We're going to get to Chulin. And in our Chulin days, we're going to speak about the psulim by shchita. One of the psulim say is what's called shehiyah. Shehiyah means you delay in the course of the shchita. Shchita has to be done in one quick fell swoop. If you delay, shehiyah is one of the psulim. Supposed to listen to this. So the Gemara Rava suggests that the machlokes ultimately again is what happens if you do shehiyah by the second siman. Now, boss, remember again, this is shehiyah by the second siman by ola sa'of. Remember again, how many simanim do you have to shecht by ola sa'of? 2. So what happens if I did shehiyah by the second one? So the Gemara says, Rav Amar shehiyah b'siman sheni ba'ola sa'of ma'akev ikabineh. Tanakama savar shehiyah b'siman sheni ba'ola sa'of lo ma'akev. So the Tanakama holds that even if you did shehiyah by the second siman, it's not ma'akev. Va'af agav the shehiyah ka'avid ma'asa ola b'chatos. So I'll say, even though ultimately, again, you are doing a maisa shehiyah, ultimately, again, it's still considered to be the masa ola b'chatos. Rabbi Shimon Savar ma'akev. Rabbi Shimon holds that it is ma'akev. V'cheven de shehiyah, and now that I've done shehiyah, mechatech basar ba'almahu. It is simply considered to what Rabbi say, just simply an act of cutting flesh. Okay? Abai and Rabbi say, all we're trying to figure out is what would be the machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Tanakama of our Mishnah. Abai says, Rov basar ma'akiv ikim. Rabbi says, actually another interesting machlokes. Abai says, the machlokes Rabbi say is what is the status of the cutting of the majority of the flesh of the bird. Uplugta Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak. Chad Amar, Shehiyah b'simin sheni ba'ola sa'of ma'akev. So one opinion says, if you do shehiyah by the cutting of the second siman, that is indeed ma'akev. Or I should read that differently. Shehiyah b'siman sheni ba'ola sa'of ma'akev ika beinayhu. The one opinion says, Rabbi say that the point of contention is if you did shehiyah by the cutting of the second siman of ola sa'of. The chad amar rov basar ma'akev ika beinayhu. And the other opinion says, no, but say, what's the machlokes? The machlokes is, what is the status of cutting the majority of the flesh on the bird? Mechlal, and Abosai, the Gemara just makes a very important point. Mechlal, now this would seem to infer, Diba'inon Durov Basar Betchila. Now this is actually quite interesting. If you take a look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, Rov Basar Ma'akiv Ika Benayu. It's in the wider lines of Rashi, 4 lines in. Udechuli al Mashiach Ba'ola B'Simen Sheni Pasla. V'acha B'Hakligi. The Tanakama Chituch Rov Basar B'Chatas Lo Ma'akiv Ilo Machtichlei. Visrabosai, listen to this. It appears that the machlokes that now the Gemara is suggesting is one possible taich of the machlokes is, do you have to cut the majority of the flesh in a chata sa'of? So by all itself, obviously you have to go ahead and cut the majority of the flesh. Why? Why? Because you have to detach the head in its entirety. What about by chata sa'of? What is there a din of cutting the rov basar, the majority of the flesh, on the head of the animal or not? So that seems to be a machlokes. Now the point the Gemara is making over here is the machlokes is only whether or not what? It's ma'akev. Whether it's ma'akev. But it appears that l'chatchila, everyone agrees that you should cut the majority of the flesh of the head of the chata sa'of. Rashi says, look at Rashi, mechlal d'ba'inan rov ha'basar l'chatchila, midikamiflagi bi'ikuva, mechlal d'kulhu modu l'chatchila by lachtoch rov basar achar hasimin. Both say it appears that halacha l'maisa, everyone is agreeing that what? L'chatchila, you should cut the majority of the flesh of the chata sa'of. So the Gemara says, watch this. So the Gemara says, yes, that is correct. L'chatchila, everyone agrees that you should cut the majority of the flesh of the head of the chata sa'of. Even though what Rabbi say, how many simanim do you have to shecht by chata sa'of? Only one. The head remains attached, but you should still go ahead and cut the majority of the flesh. So the Gemara says, is that true? We'll say one more piece and we'll have to stop. Is that true? V'hatanya, we'll say, here we go. V'hatanya is a great brisa. Ketzan molkin chata sa'of. We'll say it's very exciting. Because remember, on Amud Aleph, we got the entire process for Olas Ha'of. Now we're getting the entire process for Chata Sa'of. Ketzad Molkin Chata Sa'of. We'll say, how do you do Malika on Chata Sa'of? Chotech Shedra Umafrekes below Rov Basar Ad Shemagia Leveshet Olakana. We'll say, what do? Same process. You take your fingernail, Cohen takes his fingernail, he cuts through. So we'll say, the Shedra is the spine, Mafrekes is the neck bone. You cut through the spine and the neck bone below Rov Basar without cutting through the majority of the flesh of the head of the bird. Ad shemagia leveshet olakana, until you get to the windpipe or the esophagus. Higia leveshet olakana. It doesn't matter which one. You get to the windpipe or the esophagus. Chotech simin echad o rubo verov basar imo. And what happens, Rabosai? You go ahead and you shech that one simin, or the majority of that one simin, and the majority of the flesh together with it. Uba'ola, Rabosai, when it comes to ola sa'of, then what? Shnayim o rov shnayim. Ultimately, again, you go ahead and you shecht. Let's say you go ahead and you shecht what? You go ahead and you shecht either both simanim or ultimately, again, the majority of both simanim. Amura kameid Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar lo shmiya lehu had Amr Rabbi Shimon ben al Yakim, Mishon Relozer ben Pedas, Mishon Relozer ben Shamua, Omer Hayar Relozer Shimon, Shamati bechatas of Shemavdilin. So we'll say, watch this. So now again, did you not hear this halacha that by chata sa'of you do go ahead and you separate? So the Gemara says, Umay lo yavdil. But what does the pasuk mean when it says Rabosai umalak? The pasuk says umalak es rosham imular po v'lo yavdil. So we'll say the pasuk seems to indicate that what, that you don't separate the head from the body. Top of samech vav ein tzarech lahavdil. Ultimately, again, it means that what? You don't have to go ahead and separate it. So both say what's very interesting about this particular drasha. We're going to stop over here for today. But what's very interesting about this, even though it's two dots a little bit later on, but we'll stop over for today. Is both say we're getting now to the core of this machlokes. The Mishnah seems to indicate to me that halacha lemaisa, as we saw, hivdil b'chatas lo hivdil ba'ola pasel. The Rabbi say the halacha is that by chatas you only are to go ahead and separate one simin, and by definition, leave the head attached to the rest of the body. By ola sa'of, it sounds, we know the halacha is, you cut through both simanim and detach the head from the body. The interesting part that now we're getting to chata sa'of, so the Brisa clearly indicates the process for going ahead and shechting chata sa'of, is you go ahead and you only shecht what? You only shecht one simin, but you do shecht rov basar. Now Rabbi Shimon comes along and says that I have heard that by chata sa'of you can separate both simanim and the head from the body. So what does it mean when it says lo yavdil? Lo yavdil means what, Rabbi say? you don't have to. You don't have to go ahead and cut through both simanim, cut through the head its entirety. But if you want to, ultimately you can. So once I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. I hope that you can get through the rest of this day, waiting until resolution until tomorrow morning. But the idea being, what is the din of chata sa'of? Is that halacha l'maisa you can't cut through both simanim and detach the head, or it's that no, you can if you want to, but you're not obligated to? Resolution in Hashem tomorrow.